Good evening. My name is Alex Ingber, one of the committee members with the Students for Holocaust Awareness here at Colorado State University. Welcome, Honorable Rabbi Mangel, administration officials, faculty, staff and students, as well as community members. Thank you for being here tonight on a very important evening where we honor and remember the millions who perished during the Holocaust, as is our duty. This week marks the 18th Annual Holocaust Awareness Week at Colorado State University. Tonight is our main event. However, we will have several other events throughout the week that you guys can participate in, including the daily litany from 10 a.m. in the plaza from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tomorrow evening, we will be featuring a film on the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz at 7 p.m. Finally, we'll conclude this week with a memorial service on Friday, along with the retiring of the field of the flags at 2 p.m. right outside these doors in the LSC theater lobby. More information about our week-long events can be found in your information booklets, as well as online at holocaust.colorstate.edu. There you will also find information on how to sign up for the daily litany reading. I would like to take a few minutes to acknowledge and thank the hard work of the students of the Holocaust Awareness Committee. These people include Sadie Hazan, Stephanie Eisenberg, Sam Laffey, and Alyssa Boxbaum. A very special thanks to ASCSU for their huge support. Also, thank you to our co-sponsors, RAM Events, LSC CoLab, and finally, all three Jewish organizations on campus, Hillel, Chabad, and AEPI. Thank you to Colorado State and the Laurie student staff for supporting us and hosting our events. I want to make a special mention of our advisor, Adam Fedried. No one has worked harder for this Holocaust Awareness Week and those in the past years. And finally, thank you also to Rabbi Yerachmiel Gorelik of Chabad and Alex Amshi of Hillel for tireless support, as well as Kayla Green of CSU Media Relations. Of course, the greatest thanks and appreciation goes to the Honorable Rabbi Nissen Mangel, to whom we are incredibly grateful that he agreed to come speak to us. He has traveled all the way from snowy New York to share with us his incredible story. Please ensure your cell phones are off as to give respect to our guest tonight. We will be having a Q&A after he shares his story. If you'd like to ask a question, you can write down on your card and we'll be glad to give it to the rabbi after he's done speaking. And now there's a short video that we'd love for you all to watch.
In the darkest days of the Holocaust, a crowded cattle car left Warsaw headed to the infamous death camp Treblinka. Amidst the horrific sounds of people gasping, sighing, weeping, and dying, the thin voice of a Hasidic cantor named Azriel David Fastag rose. His soul poured forth in song. A song embodying the eternity of the Jewish people. Oblivious to the silence in the cattle car, he passionately sewed his new tune to the words of Ani Ma'amin, B'Emunah Shalema. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah. Hundreds of ears listened tentatively in amazement. And then, they too began to sing. In a tear-stained voice, Reb Azriel cried out, "I will give half my portion in the world to come to whoever will bring this song to my Rebbe." A young survivor did bring this song to the Rebbe. It is told that when on the following Yom Kippur, the Moditzer Rebbe introduced and sang this song, the thousands of Jews present burst into a torrent of tears. With this song, the Rebbe used to say, the Jewish people went to the gas chambers, and it is with this song that the Jewish people will march to greet Mashiach.
We would now like to welcome Rabbi Yerachmiel Gorelik to the stage to introduce Rabbi Nissen Mangel.
Good evening, everybody. This is really an amazing turnout, and we, both the Jewish community as well as CSU, truly appreciate everybody making the effort to come. For me personally, this has been the culmination of 10 years of wishing and fantasizing that we could bring Rabbi Mangel here to speak. And indeed, for the past 5 years, I tried and couldn't even get past his wife. So it's a miracle that we managed to have Rabbi Mangel here. Rabbi Mangel is extremely well known in the Jewish world. As the youngest child inmate of Auschwitz, all of 10 years old, beyond the daily miracle of staying alive, he endured 7 concentration extermination camps, multiple encounters with Dr. Mengele, the angel of death, and of course the ultimate death march. Every Holocaust survivor is a hero. Rabbi Mangel is a giant amongst giants. Eventually, he became a world-renowned scholar, author, speaker, and authority on philosophy and Jewish mysticism. His books, including the translation of one of the most popularly used Jewish prayer books, as well as the Tanya, considered the foremost book on Jewish mysticism, are used by thousands and thousands of people across the world. I used to visit his synagogue in New York. I never had the courage to go speak to him, just so I could spend some time with Rabbi Mangel. He is a speaker that's wanted across the world. It's obviously not so easy now to travel so much, so I cannot tell you how humbled and honoured I am by the effort that he's making to come and visit us here tonight. I want everyone to understand that we are beholding greatness here. And tonight, I think, for me, will be the most meaningful time in my 10 years here as a rabbi, and I'm pretty confident that it will have that impact on you here today as well. Thank you again.
Please rise and welcome the Honorable Rabbi Nissen Mangel.
Good job.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Rabbi Rachmiel Gorelik. I would imagine that everybody heard of the famous street in New York, Lower East Side, the Orchard Street. Orchard Street has many, many stores. The vendors keep their merchandise outside the sidewalk, and the prices are very good, the merchandise is very nice. When a person wants to get a bargain, a nice shirt, a nice sweater, a nice jacket, a nice hat, he goes to Orchard Street. A number of years ago, it was Friday afternoon, my wife and I came to Orchard Street, not because we wanted to buy a bargain to get something, because we just had to pass through this street in Lower East Side. And as we were walking on the street, so one vendor, storekeeper, comes over to me and says, "Young man, I have a beautiful, beautiful shirts for you, very good prices. Why don't you come into the store and get yourself, choose some nice shirts, bargain prices?" So I tell him, I like nice shirts, I like bargain prices, but not today. So why not? It's Friday afternoon. I'm here in Lower East Side in Manhattan. I have to get back to Brooklyn, to Crown Heights, to where I live. It's very short, a short time before the Sabbath, and I'm a Sabbath observant. So I cannot afford to spend any time here in your store, even though you're telling me that I get beautiful shirts for bargain prices. So he looks at me, puts his hand on my shoulder, says, "Young man, because of Sabbath, you forgo such a nice shirts and such a good prices?" Says, "Yes, indeed. For me, Sabbath is very important." He says, "Sabbath, Torah, God, non-existent. Doesn't mean anything." So here I was challenged. I said, because I'm a Sabbath observant, to me it means very much. So I asked him, "Tell me, what do you mean the Sabbath is by you nothing? What do you mean God doesn't exist? On what basis do you say that?" So he takes his hand and bangs on his chest, and he says, "I was in Auschwitz. Anybody who experienced the atrocities, the barbarism in humanity in Auschwitz cannot believe anymore in God." And then he continues, he says, "Young man, if you would see what I've seen, you would say the same words what I say, no God, no Torah, and no Sabbath." So then I tell him, "My dear man, tell me, what did you see what I didn't see? What did you experience which I didn't experience?" So again, I was in Auschwitz. So I just pulled back my sleeve, opened up my shirt. Then it didn't take such a long time as now. Yeah. And I show him my tattoo. I asked him, "Tell me, how old were you when you were in Auschwitz?" 22 years old. I was 10 years old. And I was in Auschwitz as a child of 10 years old. I was in the hands, in the clutches of the angel of death, Dr. Mangel, twice. I was inside in the gas chamber. I was in 7 different death extermination camps, and I still believe in God. Ladies and gentlemen, when this person saw my tattoo, but he couldn't tell me it's not true what I'm saying to him. He saw my tattoo. This person became white, truly like my shirt. Pale. Went back into his office. He slumped down in his easy chair. And I followed him. Here I had a time because I wanted to discuss with him a little bit further concerning God, believing God, Emunah, Ani Mamin, which we saw singing. We sang in Auschwitz, Ani Mamin. But he was lost in his thoughts, immersed in his thoughts. I was waiting and waiting. I was able to speak with him, but I couldn't. And it was late, getting late for the Sabbath. So we had to catch one bus, another bus to get back to Crown Heights, to Brooklyn. We left. And 6 weeks later, my wife and I had to be again on Orchard Street. So this time I said to my wife, let's go into the store and buy indeed nice shirts, and I'm sure she's going to give us again a good bargain price. However, when we came 6 weeks later, he wasn't there anymore. He sold his store, and a new vendor was in the store. I asked him what happened to the old one. He says he sold it to me, and where he went, I don't know what happened to him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know myself what happened to him, but obviously something happened in his soul. He thought anybody besought this barbarism, this suffering, such a thing, such a tragedy never happened, not to the Jewish nation, not to no nation since the beginning of the world. 6 million innocent Jews, for no reason whatsoever. Why were they murdered? For what crime? Only for their race, but they were Jews. 1.5 million little children, innocent children. Indeed, some people can come to the conclusion that God either doesn't exist altogether, or he abandoned us. If he does exist, he doesn't care about the human race. It's below his dignity. It's up in the seventh heaven. And this was the view of this person. Once he saw a little boy in 7 different extermination camps, inside the gas chamber, in the hands of Mangel, the angel of death. And still he can say, Ani Ma'amin, but you heard singing. I saw people walking into the gas chamber, holding hands, Ani Ma'amin, I believe in God. So it must have done something to him. He sold the store. What happened to him, whether he made Aliyah, went to Israel or something else, I just don't know. But obviously his mind changed. He couldn't, till now, he had his store open on the Sabbath. He didn't want to continue desecrating the Sabbath, which he told, what's Sabbath? So he sold the store, and what happened to him afterwards, I don't know. But anyways, I can tell you, God did not abandon us. Any survivor, and there are still thousands of survivors, continues to become less and less and less. But those who are still here, if you ask them, let them tell you their stories, immediately you'll come to the conclusion it wasn't a natural phenomenon, how they survived these different death camps, without food, sick, suffering. It's only by divine grace. And let me share a couple of stories now. What I went through, and you be the judge. If I'm here today, I can speak to you. Is it just by coincidence, good luck, that I survived those death camps? Or maybe God Almighty was holding my hand and took me out from one dire, dangerous death situation to continuously save me. This is a book of Psalms. Psalms means religious poems. In Hebrew, it's called Sefer Tehillim. Tehillim means in Hebrew, the book of thanksgiving and praises to God. This book is a composite of many authors, 10 authors. The majority of the Psalms, of these religious poems, was composed by King David. There are even some poems from Moses. Let me quote 3 verses from Psalm 118, and this is attributed to King David. He composed this psalm. If he wouldn't have written these 3 sentences, verses, I could have written these 3 verses. It says, Psalm 118, verse 17. Lo yamus, King says David, God, you did not let me die. You wanted I should live. Vasaper, why did you want I should live? Vasaper masika. I should recount, I should tell the wondrous acts of God, the miracles. Yasu Israelnika, indeed, God, you afflicted me tremendously. But you saved me from death. I suffered tremendously, but nevertheless, you saved me from death. Peaceful Share Tzedek, open up the gates of righteousness. Over them, let me come into them. Oideka, I should be able to thank God. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, if King David wouldn't have said those verses, I could have composed these verses myself. I was on the threshold of death, not numerous times. In the 10 months that I was in this, almost a year, in these death camps, day in, day out, I was in complete danger of death. And Yassi Israni, even while I was alive, I was suffering tremendously, which will be discussed later on. This torture, superhuman suffering. But nevertheless, Hashem didn't let me die. Why? I should be able to come and testify to the miracles with those who did survive, only survived miraculously. In Oider Hashem, I thank God that I'm here now. 70 years later, and I speak to you, I could have been together with those 6 million innocent Jews, 1.5 million innocent children. Why did God spare me and not the 6 million Jews? Am I better than them? Why did God spare me and not 1.5 million children? I don't know. The answer only God can give. But if I'm here, it's only by divine intervention, divine help. When you throw a dice and you get the number 6, say a nice coincidence. You got the number 6, you win. How about you throw the dice a second time? You get again number 6. You say it's luck. You were very lucky. You got twice number 6. How about you throw the dice a third time, and again you get number 6? So you say very lucky. But how about you throw the dice 10 times, 20 times, 100 times? Always you get number 6. Obviously, you cannot say it's just luck, coincidence, something is going on. So let me just tell you a few of my stories, and you be the judge if this is just good luck, it's coincidence, or there's something more. How did we were brought to Auschwitz? March 16th, 1944, Hitler marched into Hungary, occupied the city where we were also living. A week later, the chief general of the SS in our city called together the leaders of the Jewish Committee Council, and he said to them, "Do you know what's your fate, what's your destiny? Soon you'll be burning in Auschwitz. If you want to save yourself, you want to spare your life, give me $1 million And the Jews of Košice, where I come from, Czechoslovakia and Hungary, so you'll be spared. You won't be sent to Auschwitz. In our city were 100,000 people, 20,000 Jews, a lot of Jews. You know what, in 1944, in the middle of the war, $1 million, what it meant? Without any doubt, more than 25, 40, $50 million nowadays. In 1940, under the Germans, dollars were not available. $1 million, but they gathered together, all the Jews and the city, said we must raise the sum of money, we should be saved, we shouldn't be sent to the gas chambers in Auschwitz. It was tremendously, tremendously difficult, but they scraped together $1 million. What do you think, what happened afterwards? They kept their word. 1 week later, began taking the Jews to the ghetto, and from the ghetto to Auschwitz. My parents and I, and my sister, we went into hiding. We escaped. This itself, miraculously, but I can't tell you everything because otherwise we'll have to stay here, not a whole night, but a whole week. Eventually, we had to smuggle ourselves through from Hungary into Slovakia. And we were running from one city to another city, from one country to another country. Eventually, at the end of May, June, beginning of June, they caught us in Bratislava. Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia, Czechoslovakia. Hitler split Czechoslovakia into two, and Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia. There they caught us. They brought us to the Stab, the headquarters of the Gestapo, even more notorious than the SS. They didn't send any Jews just to Auschwitz. There were a certain number of people, between 4,000 and 5,000, and then was our transport and sent to Auschwitz. So then we were sent, the first concentration camp was in Slovakia itself. So we were sent to be waited there for over a week until they found more Jews and more Jews and more Jews. They had already the quota of sending to Auschwitz. But in between, while we were this week, we were in the Seret, this concentration camp. They made all the Jews who come out from the barracks. It's a huge, huge courtyard, many tables. The tables lined up, many, many tables, big baskets. And all the Jews have to pass through these tables and throw their money, their dollars, and their jewelry into the baskets. And if any Jew will be found, he didn't give his dollars, his jewelry, he'll be shot. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a warning, a threat. For them to shoot a Jew was less than for me to step on an ant. For me, if I would step, even inadvertently, I would step on an ant, my conscience would bother me much more than for them deliberately kill a Jew. So killing meant nothing. So all the thousands, 3,000, 4,000 Jews passed, and slowly, all these baskets were filled up. I remember my mother took off her diamond earrings. We were very wealthy in Czechoslovakia. My father took off his golden watch. My mother the diamond ring, and our father took out a couple of $100, and everybody else until it was filled. And then we were allowed to go back out into our barracks. We were in barracks maybe for 10, 15 minutes. 2 SS come into our barracks and shout widely, "We know that you Jews, you didn't give all the dollars, all the money. You didn't give us all the jewelry. If you catch anybody who didn't give it, you'll be shot on the spot." We're sitting in this barrack. We had a little cubicle, my father, my mother, my sister, and I. We're sitting on our luggages, our valises, because when they told us we are going to go to Auschwitz, not to be exterminated, you saw that on Auschwitz, on the gates, at the entrance, Arbeit macht frei, We are going to a labor camp, not a death camp, a labor camp. So you can take along your belongings, but if you need your clothes, you need a pillow, you need a quilt, you can take it along. So everybody had valises. So we're sitting on the valises. And when the SS came screaming, we know that you didn't give up all your monies and all your jewelry, and shooting in the roof, in the floor, in the walls of the barrack. Everybody would be panicking. So as I didn't know anything, I was a little child, I didn't know what my father has, my mother has, but I didn't know. So suddenly I noticed my father gestures to my mother, gestures to my face, take him. So my mother grabbed me by my hand, and she took me out from this barrack, from this room, and into the bathroom. I was in the bathroom, she locks the bathroom, and she tears off my sleeve. And what did she find? What did she take out? Here in Europe, people used to wear jackets or clothes with big paddings, almost like paddings, heavy paddings. So instead of having the paddings, my mother sewed in dollars. It looked like the padding. And they were hiding the dollars. And she ripped off one sleeve, a whole pile of $100 bills. And then she tore off my other sleeve, and again took off from the padding, again a whole pile of $100 bills. She tears it into pieces, and she wants to flush it down the toilet, as I shouldn't see that we didn't give it. As she tore it into small pieces and wanted to flush it, she flushed, but little pieces came swimming up. And she flushed it again, it came swimming up again. I've never saw a person, my mother was shivering and shaking. Here we see the SS is shooting and says, well, catch whoever I will catch. Didn't give the dollars, they'll be shot. And here, my mother is here in the bathroom. She takes up the dollars, and the dollars don't go down. In desperation, she takes her hand and takes all these little pieces of dollar, and she pushes them down. Her hand went into the toilet all the way till here. And then she flushed it, and the water took it down because she pushed it down all the way. In this moment, the SS knocks on the door. Who is here? My mother opens up the door, and the SS comes in, screaming, "What are you doing here?" So my mother said, "My little boy doesn't feel well. He's nauseous. I was afraid he'll vomit, so I brought him to the toilet." She says, "No, go back to your place, not in the barrack." Ladies and gentlemen, if the SS would have come 30 seconds before, he would saw what happened to my mother, what my mother did, both of us would be shot on the spot. Now let me just jump ahead. Eventually came the time they had already gathered this quota of between 4,000 and 5,000 Jews. And you saw the cattle coaches in the movie here, in the film. And we were cramped into the cattle coaches. How many people, you mustn't forget, everybody had valises with them because they said we are going to a labor camp. So we took all kinds of things which we didn't need, suits, so on and so forth. So how many people can, with the valises, can be accommodated, even squeezed together, such a cattle coach? 30, 35. Do you know how many people they squeezed in? They just pushed in, like cattle. We were in this coach, over 100 people with the valises. And when they could not, nobody could walk anymore, the SS just threw it through. On the head, landed on the head. But when I found out a little place where to sit, there wasn't a place for me to sit. With my legs, I was on the shoulder on the next person who was sitting in front of me. And the person behind me had his legs on me. We were traveling for over a day. In this coach was no sanitary facilities. Can you imagine the people had to relieve themselves? How did they relieve themselves? The stench was unbelievable. Many elderly women fainted. They were revived, but as soon as they came to Auschwitz, they finished kaput. But anyways, this is how we traveled in this stench, this crushing, more crowded together than sardines. I said we couldn't sit just on the shoulders, on my legs, on the shoulders of the head of the next person, and the person behind me is the same thing. Eventually, we did arrive in Auschwitz. In this Arbeit macht frei camp. We should be so happy, labor makes you free. We came off the cattle coaches and we lined up. 5 per line, and it was, I tell you, 4,000 or 5,000 people. So everybody had their valises, their luggages, their belongings. There was a special group of Jewish inmates who their function was a triple function. When the Jews arrive in Auschwitz, as soon as they line up with their valises, with their luggage, take it away from them. It was not a farce that we should need all our belongings. Everything was taken away from us. This was their first function. Take away the luggages from us. The second function was that when in the gas chamber, the dead corpse were laying in the gas chamber, they should take out the dead corpse from the gas chamber. This was their second function, the Besonderes Kommando. The third function was take out the dead corpse from the gas chamber, put them in the crematoria, in the ovens, and burn them, and then take out the ashes and spread it throughout Auschwitz. So this was their function. So when we came, also Jewish, for the Besonderes Kommando, Jewish inmates, and we were lined up, and they came to take away our valises. I was in the line of 5. I was the first one holding the hand of my mother. Afterwards was my father, and afterwards my sister. But I was at the edge of the line. As he came to take away the valises, he sees me, a little boy. I wasn't tall, 10 years old. He says to my mother in Yiddish, in the Jewish language, Yiddish, "Give away your son, the elderly person who's going to be sent to the gas chamber anyways, and at least save your life." Because Mengele, when there's a mother who had a child who couldn't work in Auschwitz, not only the child was sent in the gas chamber, but the mother as well. So he says, "You want to save yourself?" That's what he said to my mother. "Well, if you want to save yourself, give away your child to elderly woman, elderly man, and their child or their grandchild, and you'll be saved." Of course, my mother wouldn't hear of it. I just felt I was holding my mother's hand, and she was holding my hand. When she heard these words, not only she was holding my hand, she held it tight, firm, like a love, tight. "I won't let you go," tight. And of course, he couldn't stay too long, because he had to make himself busy. He takes out the luggage. Ladies and gentlemen, 2-3 minutes later, he comes again, and he sees my mother didn't give me away. He says, "Ribono shel olam, for heaven's sake, save yourself. Give away your child." My mother held my hand even tighter. I just felt, no, my mother won't give me away. Hold tight my hand. And of course, he had to go away again, because we were not allowed to speak to the Jews. Maybe another 2-3 minutes later, he comes, that makes him so busy that maybe amongst all the people, he didn't find all the luggage, so he gets inside the people, ostensibly looking for the luggage, and he says the following story to my mother. Looking back and forth, that he's busy. The SS shouldn't suspect that he speaks to us. And he says to my mother, let me tell you, if you won't give away your child, what will happen to you? Yesterday afternoon, another group of Jews came from Hungary, from Romania. And it was a mother of a young baby. A young baby. She was still holding the baby in her hand, infant baby. Of course, when Mangel saw a mother with an infant baby, he didn't have any questions, left. And this, you see, this thumb of Mangel determined the fate of 6 million innocent people. This finger determined the fate of 1.5 million innocent little infants, children, little boys, little children. If he flipped the finger to the left, means go to the gas chamber. Right, to work. She said, yesterday, this transport, there was a mother, was holding a little baby, infant baby in her hand. So immediately, of course, the left side. But at least when the mother goes to the gas chamber to be killed, you know, a Yiddish mama wants to even die together with the baby. She wanted to hold the baby. As she goes to the gas chamber, she would hold tight her baby. But even this, they didn't. So brutal they were. So they had 2 different trucks, one for the little children, and one for the mothers and the elderly people. So when she was sent to the left side, she was holding the baby. The SS screams, give me your baby. And when the SS had a baby, what did they do to the truck? Just like garbage. Throw it just like into the truck to go to the gas chamber. So ladies and gentlemen, this mother wouldn't separate herself from the baby. The SS screams, give me the baby. And the mother wouldn't give the baby to the SS. What did the SS do? Went over to the baby, to the mother, grabbed away the baby. The baby was wrapped in a blanket, unwrapped the baby, took a rope and tied a rope to one leg of the baby and tied it to one truck. Took another rope and tied the left leg of the baby and tied it to another truck and said to the truck, to the SS truck drivers, go in different directions. In front of her, the child, this baby, was ripped into 2 pieces. Can you imagine this? So this is what this Besonders Command said to my mother. You don't want to have the fate of this woman and this child. Give away your child. My mother was holding my hand tightly, and she wouldn't hear of it. We're waiting for the selection. What was the selection? When Mangel came, now ladies and gentlemen, this was a table like this size. Mangel would sit here like this. He wouldn't sit on a table on the chair. He would just sit like this on the table, and always sit on the table and cross-legged. And everybody had to pass by Mangel. And I just said, he only gestured with his finger, flipping here, flipping there. This was the fate of the Jews. The left, death, work, to go to work. We're waiting for this is called the selection. Selektia in German, selection who could work, who should go to death. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. Maybe 2 hours, and Mangel didn't show up. This Mangel is at the angel of death. He didn't show up. Why didn't he show up? So since he didn't show up, there was no selection. So the says we should just go into the lager, into the camp. So he went to the camp, and Mangel came back to Auschwitz a week later. What happened? He got false information that Americans are going to bomb Auschwitz. He was afraid for his life. So he decided he's going to run away from Auschwitz. He won't be there when the Americans will bomb Auschwitz. And afterwards, he'll come back. It was a false information, a false intelligence. And he came back, and then a week later started the selection. While we were inside already in the barrack, in the camp, and we knew what's expected of us, what will be, and I'm a little boy. So my mother decided, I will not go to the selection. Let me hide in one of the barracks, and I will not go to the selection. They started selection, but of course they counted how many people. They knew that's the number. And one person is missing. So they said, if we don't find this missing person, everybody, without any selection, everybody goes straight to the gas chamber. We must find who is this person who is missing. My mother heard that because of me, because of one person, everybody is going to go to the gas chamber. So my mother came, found me, one of the barracks, says, you go. And there's so many people, thousands of people, they didn't notice that I just smuggled them in. And I found my father, and we went to the selection to my father. Mangel was there, ladies and gentlemen, sitting on this table, cross-legged. He was continuously smoking, chain smoker, continuously. Once I finished one cigarette, the next cigarette. One cigarette was smoking, hand in his mouth, and this. So my father said, since he was tall, young, healthy, so of course he'll be okay, but I'm a little boy. So he says, maybe, usually a child goes in front of the father. This time he says, you go behind me. Maybe I'll be able to run past Mangel in such a way that you'll be able to run after me, he won't notice you. So that's what we did. My father passed, of course, and he got to the work, but he noticed me. And this is the first time I was really in the clutches of this angel of death. If somebody tells you that a person is in a lion's den, wild, hungry lions, and you are inside, and they don't devour you, don't tear you to pieces, obviously understand the natural phenomenon. But Mangel was in Auschwitz, he was a demigod. The SS, the Gestapo was afraid of him. So suddenly, he sitting and he notices me. He gets off on the table. He walks over to me. With one flip of the finger, I could have been in a gas chamber. He didn't move his finger. He gets off of the table, walks over to me, and asks me, how old am I? By this time, we were already in the camp in Auschwitz for a week, so we know the dangers. So they told him already, say you're much older. I was 10 years old. I tell him I'm 17. He was laughing just like you. He says in German, obwohl ich weiß, although I know that you're not more than 11, I wasn't 11 yet. Go mit deinem Vater, go with your father. Ask anybody, the 1.5 million little children, why didn't you do it to them? Why did it to me? I don't know. How come ask any Holocaust survivor? Would Mangel ever get off of his table and engage in a conversation with anybody? Why did it happen to me? I don't know. He will answer you. I don't know. But this was the time I was really, he sent just a flip of a finger. I could have been in the gas chamber. I was, several years ago, a number of years ago, was speaking in Los Angeles. One of the local newspapers, I also mentioned this phenomenon, this thing. So they wrote, but you know, what we read in newspapers, 80% is not true. So let me tell you one other thing. So they also described this journalist, this reporter, wrote about my things here. She says, why did Mangel spare me? He asked me, what's my name? I said, my name is Mangel. She says, oh, Mangel and Mangel are cognate names, so that's why I free you. Because Mangel and Mangel, it's nothing of the sort. Simply ask him about my name, about my year, how old am I? He says, 17. He was chuckling, he was laughing. He says, go to your father. Anyways, we entered. I went with my father to work. What was my work in Auschwitz? They gave me My father worked something else, but let me tell you what I worked in Auschwitz. A little pipsqueak, 10 years old. They gave me a barrel, 2 barrels. Both barrels were taller than me. The barrel was as tall as this here, taller than me. They gave me 1 barrel filled with pieces of fabric, cloth, and I had to twist them, tie them, stitch them together, make it into a rope. Make a big, big rope. And this is what I was supposed to do. Why did they need from this fabric a rope? Nowadays, if you want to blow up a bridge, you can, remote control, you can do it. In those days, they couldn't do it, so they put into these ropes a wire. They wanted, for example, to blow up, to detonate, to blow up a bridge, so they attach it to the bridge, and a few hundred meters away, and that's how the soldiers shouldn't be endangered. That's how they did it. So I had to do these ropes, and eventually this wire was put in. So that's what I did. I had to fill up, to take the fabric, and make these ropes longer and longer and longer and longer. One day, I'm doing this, I'm coming to work, and they give me again these 2 big barrels. I sit, there was no chairs, on a piece of rock. I was sitting there, and simply I couldn't move my muscles. I couldn't miss, I was like a delirium. I just didn't know what's going on with me. I just didn't feel well, I couldn't move. Of course, there was the capo who watched how we work. So we started work like 6 o'clock in the morning. He comes to me like 9 o'clock. So at least a third or a quarter of the barrel should be filled already with the rope. It's completely empty. Without asking, because I've just slumped, sitting like this. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything, just like this. Without asking any questions. He just started to punch me, punch my head, but why don't you work? I was so weak, I just fell down on the floor. When I fell down on the floor, he started to kick me. I couldn't even tell him, you can kick me to death, I can't do anything. But he kept on kicking me, until he saw that I just don't move anything and I don't speak, and he left me alone. So other inmates came, picked me up, and took me back to my chair, to this piece of stone, a rock I was sitting. I was sitting till like 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, they gave us to eat. What was the food? A little, the only thing which we possessed, was only, of course, a tin bowl, which you gave a little soup. Soup was only good warm water with a couple of pearls, which we called it pearls, a couple of barleys, but just plain water, and gave us also a slice of bread. The slice of bread was not bigger than my palm here, just 4 fingers, this size, and not thicker. But ladies and gentlemen, of this little piece of bread, which they gave us, more than 3/4 was moldy. You know, this grayish, yellowish mold. But we ate everything. I remember as a child, I was just wondering, I said, Hitler, you don't want to give us to eat because you want to save money. I can understand you don't want to give us food. But once you give us only the bread, why do you wait until it becomes 3/4 moldy? Because we digested, we ate everything. Do you realize this itself was the biggest blessing in disguise? Can anybody tell me why? You know what penicillin is made from? Natural antibiotics. Penicillin is made from mold. I don't remember in Auschwitz somebody should complain as a sore throat or the flu or a pneumonia, bronchitis. We had natural antibiotics. So a blessing in disguise. But in any case, then came, we worked for a little while. Then came, we still had our clothes. Then, one day, I come back to what happened afterwards. We have to change our clothes. So we went back into the crematoria, the gas chamber. The gas chamber we used had a double function, either to gas people or a shower. It's also served as a shower. But they wanted from the shower pipes came out gas, or not came out water. We were not in this shower, because we were supposed to go to work. Everybody had to strip himself completely naked, leave all his clothes which he brought from home on one side, take a shower, and then we were given the uniform. You know, the uniform, I'm sure you saw, is grayish, yellow, a grayish, bluish, striped uniform. That's what we were given. So everybody took the shower, everybody, they shaved us, anybody had a beard, anybody had long hair, everything was shaved. And they gave this uniform, came to me. They said they couldn't find a uniform for me. In Auschwitz, there were no children. Every child perished, was killed. I'm here working, and I don't have for me a uniform. They didn't have a little children uniform. So SS keeps on shouting at me, "Do it fast!" I say, "What could I have no, give me a clothes." So he couldn't find for me this uniform. So he tells me, "Go back to the pile of clothes where you undressed yourself and find your old clothes, and you will be wearing in Auschwitz the clothes which you came to Auschwitz." So I went back, a mountain of clothes, thousands of people, until eventually I said, this corner, there, I found my clothes. And of course, nearby was my father's clothes. So I dressed up, I put on my own clothes. And then I was curious, like a little child is curious. I said, what does my father have in his pocket? This pocket, this pocket, this pocket. So I saw my father's trousers, and I opened up, I put my hand in his pants pocket. I see one pocket, he has a sardine. You just can't imagine what food meant in Auschwitz. You just can't imagine. So he had a sardine in his pocket. On the other hand, he had a pair of tefillin. Phylacteries, Jewish people, Jewish males, when they pray in the morning, they put on a ritual box on a forehead, an arm, and my father had a little box because he's traveling a lot. So he had this little bag, these phylacteries in which we pray. Anybody becomes bar mitzvah after 13, he prays in this phylacteries, tefillin. So I thought to myself, in Auschwitz there's no such a thing as tefillin. Everybody stripped naked, could bring in anything. If I bring to my father this tefillin, the sardine also very important, but especially tefillin, I'll make him very happy. So I put it in my pocket. I was afraid the SS might look into my pocket, but I risked. And I took the tefillin. You just can't imagine my father saw this pair of tefillin, this pair of phylacteries. Such a happiness, such a smile, the beam, the light on his face I never saw. And of course he took it. After we went to work, into the barracks. There was no tefillin in Auschwitz, no prayer book, nothing. The only tefillin my father had, only because I found it for him. Ladies and gentlemen, these phylacteries, a Jewish male is supposed to put it on only during the daytime, not at night. Of course, during the daytime, we were working. So I can tell you, hundreds and hundreds of people risked their very life. At 10 o'clock, in all the lagers, all the camps, the lights went out. That's pitch dark in the barracks. Then Jews came to my father. We had in Auschwitz a triple-decker cot. My father was on the third tier. And people came begging him he should let them put on these phylacteries. My father gave every person, but only for 2 seconds, make the blessing, say Shema Yisrael, and take it off. Every night, hundreds of people came, and literally they risked their lives in order. Many people say, in Auschwitz, you lost your faith. Let me testify what I saw. In the course of these few weeks, when my father was still together with me, thousands of people risked, literally, if SS would see what they are doing, they would shoot them on the spot. And people risked their life in order to be able to put on tefillin. But anyways, coming back, I was so sick. I couldn't work. I couldn't even march back from the place we were working into our camp. So 2 inmates, 2 other Jews helped me and brought me back into our camp. And then there was one barrack, which was sort of like our clinic. If anyone was sick, if he could be cured in a day or 2, they would heal him. If not, immediately shot, killed, gas chamber. I came, and they opened up this uniform jacket. My chest was red like a beads. The doctor just pushed the 2 nails together, and blood spurted out. So he said, this is Scharlach. Scharlach in German is in English called the scarlet fever. It's a very, very dangerous disease. And he says, you can't stay here. You'll be shipped off tonight, later in the night. You're shipped off to Lager F, because Auschwitz itself had different camps. Lager A could have been 100,000 people, Lager B, Lager C, Lager D, E, and F was also like a hospital. It wasn't a hospital. Only if somebody could be healed, cured in a day or 2, they left him there. If not, immediately was killed. Except this was the headquarters of Dr. Mangel. What did he do? He made experiments. He made experiments. Anybody was a twin. It could have been a little child. He would not kill him. Because he made experiments on twins. He had hundreds of twins. He made medical experiments. Why? By 1944, Germany lost over 10,000 young men soldiers. Hitler was afraid there won't be enough men to marry the young ladies. What will be the future of Germany? There won't be many children. So he wanted to find out how can you expedite, make a woman should, when they conceive not only one baby, she conceive twins, triplets, and so on. So he made the experiments, tremendously painful experiments on these twins. There was another group of people in this Lager F, which I never imagined that this is amongst Jews you can find such a people. Little dwarfs, literally such a size people. A whole colony, hundreds of people, long one beards, and truly Jews. I thought a dwarf, a midget, a little puppet you find on our circus. But here we saw a whole colony. This was also, Mengel made on them also experiments. What makes a person suddenly stops growing? He can be 80 years old and still so little. So these 2 people, he made experiments. But ladies and gentlemen, I was there in this Lager F. They thought I'd be able to be cured fast, but this is at the minimum 5 weeks. So I was there for a week or 2. Suddenly, Mengele, with a whole retinue of other doctors with whom he made experiments, and he comes in, he looks around, he sees me. There in this hospital, this clinic, was not a triple-decker cots, only double. I was on top. He notices me and sees a little boy, not a twin, not a dwarf. Who is he? I asked the capo, who is this child? He didn't make any experiments on this child. She says, yes, this is Scharlach. So Mengele, this is the second time I was in his clutches. He gestures to me, come down. I come down. I knew I have to show that I'm strong, because otherwise immediately I'll be sent off to the gas chamber. So instead of going down on the ladder from the double-decker down, I just jumped from my cot right smack in front of him. I want to show that I'm strong. I landed in front of Mengele. So Mengele says to the capo, bring a stretcher. He brings a stretcher. He tells me, now you lay down on this stretcher. I lay down on the stretcher, and he says to the other doctors, all the generals, doctors with whom he made the experiments, he's going to make on me also an experiment. What kind of experiment? He had this little satchel. He takes out a syringe, fills it up with some liquid, and he says to the doctors, he's going to give me an injection somewhere here. And which he never gave such injection. that there are the veins which go from the heart to the brain. There are various veins. And if he's going to find, how can he see where where is the vein? She says he'll try, if he'll be able to get the syringe, the needle, into this vein, I'll be, God forbid, paralyzed for the rest of my life. If he won't find this vein, it'll go to more into the bloodstream, I'll be kaput on the spot. A heart attack, and I'm finished. When I hear such a good tidings from Mangel, so I jump up from my stretcher, I look at his face, and I start screaming. Experiments on monkeys are not on me. And I keep on screaming and crying like a child. Experiments on monkeys not on me. I was sure Mangel always had on his belt a revolver, a gun. In his rage, he's going to shoot me on the spot. And I was just screaming and crying, experience of monkeys not on me. And I jump back on my cot and keep on crying and screaming. Mangel, I said, ladies and gentlemen, became white at his shirt. He looks at the other generals, the other doctors, looked at each other. Maybe it was a minute or two. This minute or two looked like an hour. I thought, what will be now? What will be now? You just can't imagine when we call him the angel of death. He was truly the angel of death. For he could kill 6 million Jews. What is another, and 1.5 million children? What does another boy? He defies. Nobody ever disobeyed Mangel in Auschwitz. The biggest generals, the biggest Gestapos were afraid of Mangel. And here a little boy disobeys, rebels, and shouts against him, experiments are monkeys not on me. I was sure this is dead of me, but I thought I have nothing more to lose. In gas chamber, here also the same thing, if you give me this injection. He walked out, all this, after 2-3 minutes, they looked at each other, they walked out. I was sure that within a few minutes a truck will come. In Auschwitz there are no cars, only trucks. A truck will come and take me off to the gas chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks God, I'm here. He's gone and I'm here. He didn't send the truck, and I remained in Auschwitz. Now, there's many, many more things. In other words, I was in this lion's den twice, in the power and the clutches of Mangel, and twice I defied him, and twice I was saved. Said, God, you didn't let me die. Let me just jump ahead. But you can't imagine the sufferings, the torture, the oppression, what we experienced. Let me just go to when Auschwitz was evacuated. This again started the selection. Who should remain behind? Because the Germans didn't want to leave any trace, a sign what was going on in Auschwitz. They didn't want any Jew should remain in Auschwitz to be able to testify the horrors what was going on in Auschwitz. So they evacuated all the Jews, the hundreds of thousands of Jews from Auschwitz, and those who could not evacuate barge from Poland to Germany. So they remained behind. And also, when it came to the selection, they saw me, again a little boy. They also sent me to the sick people. The sick, I should remain behind. But I understood, I realized what will be the fate of those who remain behind. So when the SS put me in this group, when the SS didn't notice, I jumped back. And like this, 3 times I had to jump back. And eventually I went, and then truly started my true problems, the sufferings, more than in Auschwitz. My sister, her toes were frozen. My sister, only a year and a half older. How did she survive? How did she go through the selections? She was much, much taller. She was 11 and a half years old, but she looked truly like 50 years old, which is very tall. My father was very tall. My mother is short. I take after my mother. My sister takes after my father. So she was very tall. So Bale, no question, and she went. But eventually, the cold, the bitter, bitter cold in Auschwitz, nothing but we experienced it this winter here, much, much worse. Her toes froze, and she couldn't move anymore. This is how I can tell you stories and stories. So she remained behind. So we're behind, a few hundred people remained behind. They crowded them together in 2 barracks, and they poured gasoline on their barracks. They started to shoot into the barracks to burn them alive. You know, when January the 17th, when Auschwitz was liberated, the Russians came. The 2 barracks were on fire. They were arrived 15, 20 minutes later, all those hundreds of Jews would be burned alive. They came, they extinguished the fire, and my sister, and if you look, you go to the Yad Vashem Museum in Jerusalem, or in Auschwitz, or in Washington, the Holocaust Museum, you can see how she couldn't walk, how a Russian nurse, you can see, of course you have to recognize her, carries her like this, taken out from the barrack, from the burning barrack. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, so I went on this march, which is called infamously the Death March. Why is it Death March? Because tens and tens of thousands of people died. As we were marching, you could see on both sides piles of people, corpses, dead. As you were marching miles and miles on end, you saw the corpses. So at the beginning, I could also march. They're marching over 2 weeks. Eventually, they didn't give us anything to eat. What did we eat? This muddy snow. When the Germans couldn't march anymore, and they wanted to rest, so we also rested. Where did we rest? We had to sit down on the ice. At night, when they wanted to sleep, so all of us, where did we sleep? In the open fields on snow. I discussed it with many, many doctors if such a thing is possible. Much colder than what's going on. I don't know how it's here. I imagine here it's also very cold, but in New York, last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, terribly cold, terribly cold. There is an open field and the high mountains between Poland and Germany. And truly sub-freezing temperature. Where did we go to sleep? The open fields, the wind and the cold, but we just laid, we didn't have a blanket, no mattress, just on with our uniform, this jacket, which many times was full with perspiration because we had to run. And laying down, many times I thought to myself, surely I won't get up. I freeze to death. Again, how does such a thing happen? I've never seen in these 3 weeks, as we were marching from Poland to Germany, this death march, that anybody, not me, you can see that I'm here, but the neighbors around me who were also sleeping should not get up because they're frozen to death. How can such a thing be? Ask any doctor. But I'm here, an eyewitness, not something, a speculation, a hearsay. I'm an eyewitness. I was sleeping on ice, on snow, for 3 weeks, every night. How can such a thing be? In New York City, the homeless, they sleep on the benches. Last week, 2 people were found dead because it was so cold. Of course, the mayor sees that sends police all over to find the homeless. They should put them in shelters, but they shouldn't sleep on benches on parks. We were not on parks, not on benches, on ice, open fields, freezing, and we didn't freeze to death. Now, how can you attribute this? How can you explain this? Ask any doctor. I discussed with many doctors. If a doctor tells it's impossible, send him to me. I'm an eyewitness that it happened. And not to me, for thousands and thousands of the other Jews. When we didn't give us anything to eat. Only we ate the muddy, muddy snow. When we stopped for a while and was emaciated and hungry and worn, tired, when I started to scrape the snow with my fingers, scrape away the snow, and eventually get to the ground, to the earth. We found an earthworm. This was for the biggest feast. Can you imagine an earthworm? To eat the earthworm nowadays makes me vomit when I think of an earthworm. That's what we found, one per day. This was our, otherwise we just eat the muddy snow. My fingers were all swollen because scraping. Can you imagine ice and snow continuously? Swollen, scraped. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I threw off everything, just barely the jacket, the pair of pants, even the socks I threw away, but I couldn't march anymore. It was too heavy for me. I had this heavy boot, leather boot, a very coarse leather boot, leather shoe. Now, not having socks, I didn't understand, I was a little child. And as I was marching in the snow, and day in, day out, the coarse leather scrubbed and bore into my flesh, by my ankle. First only rubbed, and it caused a tremendous sore pain, but eventually it rubbed away the whole flesh until, by my ankle, the bone was exposed. Even now, you can see a little scar, even that didn't completely heal. So can you imagine? You walk in the snow, and you push it at the foot, and this leather boot bores into your bone. I saw every star in the sky from the pain unbearable. But I had to continue, I had to go. I didn't want to give up. Eventually, after a few days, this unimaginable pain scraping against the bone. My whole, not only my foot and my leg became numb, but my whole heel, the left side, became completely numb, non-functioning, out of commission. This whole left side didn't work anymore. So I thought to myself, how can I walk? How can I just go with one foot and drag the other foot? And also with pain, but of course I couldn't walk, just drag. So ladies and gentlemen, after a day or two, I said to myself, I won't be able to survive. The pain is all unbearable. I can't walk. If you didn't go with their speed, the SS go fast, immediately you were shot. Or I'll collapse, and I'll be just trampled underfoot by the people who are coming. So I thought to myself, let me just go out from the line. As anybody just moved out from this line, the Germans are such so punctual, that even those miles on end, all these people are marching, there had to be a straight line. Straight line. If anybody moved out a little bit, I was shot on the spot. So I thought to myself, why torture yourself? I'm such a pain, I'll be able to survive another half a day, another day. I might as well finish it now. So then, suddenly, I can call it delirium, call it whatever you want. But suddenly, the appearance of my mother came to me. I saw my mother in front of my eyes. And my mother with a smiley face. She didn't say anything, a smiley face. This gave me such a courage, such a strength. I have to push on. I should beat my mother again. I don't know where she is, whether she's in Germany or where she is, but it's that sight of the happy motherly smile that she gave me, this image. Again, I call it delirium, but anyways, it helped me. And it helped me for another day or two. This tremendous, unbearable pain. But the whole left side was out of commission, completely numb, but it helped me for another day or two. But afterwards, simply I couldn't. I just couldn't do anymore. Couldn't walk anymore. So I made this very firm decision. Let him move out from the line a few steps, and finished. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, suddenly a young man comes over to me and starts with me a conversation. Let me tell you, in this death march, there were hundreds of thousands of people. No two people ever spoke. Just imagine, if If a person is in a boat, you capsize. Everyone jumps into the sea to save themselves. Are you going to engage in conversation where you come from? How do you do it? Everybody just thinks about themselves. How can you survive? The same thing here. Everybody's thinking, how can we survive another. There was no conversation. This whole entire 3 weeks, no conversation. Suddenly he comes over to me and starts with that conversation. And he asks me my name and where I come from and so on and so forth, until we find out that he comes from the same city, Czechoslovakia, where I come from. So after we spoke, we chatted for a while. Then I tell him, listen, I just can't continue. I tell him, I showed him my whole left side is completely paralyzed. I just can't move. Please, I'm going to move out. I'll be shot. You'll survive because you are much older than me. He was one of the twins on whom Mangel made experiments. He was 89 years old, but then he was one of those twins. As I asked him, you see where I'll be shot. You'll survive. I hope my parents also survive. Tell them where I was shot. Maybe they can come afterwards, pick me up, and bring me home and bury me with my grandparents in Czechoslovakia. She says, no. Don't do that. She says, but I can't continue. I can't walk. Literally, I can't walk anymore. She says, I'll help you. I ask him, how can you help me? Can you schlep me? Can you pick me up? You will survive me. How can you schlep me? She says, you know what? You put your hands over my shoulder, like this, and I'll carry you. So I could hop. I could go and hop 1 foot, and he was helping me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this helped me for a few days. For how long can you hop, even somebody helps you, on 1 foot? How long can you do it? So maybe it worked for 3-4 days. I don't remember exactly how many days. But afterwards, even my right foot already was hurting. I couldn't walk in my right because continuously hopping on 1 foot. So then I tell him, listen, this is the end. I cannot continue. 1 foot is completely out of commission. The second one is on the way. I can't continue. Just I'll move out from the line on this death march. I'll be shot. And please tell my parents, what I told you before, where I was killed, where I was shot. Maybe they can find me after the war and bring me home and bury me in a Jewish cemetery with my grandparents. As I made this decision, and he couldn't dissuade me anymore that I shouldn't move out, an SS comes over to me and starts our conversation. In Czechoslovakia, every Jew knew at least 4 or 5 languages. Among them was also German. To such extent, my mother tongue is German. So he started to speak with me in German, and I answered him. The whole conversation, where I come from, what did my father do, and so on and so forth, my age. And then I tell him after like 10, 15 minutes speaking with him, listen, I can't continue. Just let me move out and shoot me, and that's all. She says, no. Don't do it. I promise you, you'll survive, and I promise you'll see your parents. I said, but how can I survive? I have no food, I'm weak, I'm worn out, exhausted, my foot don't work anymore. So he takes off, the Germans had on the belt a canteen. A canteen is like a bottle, and hot, sweet, black coffee. And he gives me to drink this sweet, hot, black coffee in this freezing temperature. Ladies and gentlemen, you just can't imagine what this meant to me. Truly, it invigorated me. Our sages tell us, in the time of resurrection, will be dew, how God is going to resurrect the dead people. This was the dew of resurrection. This black coffee went all over my body. I felt it in every limb, every muscle. I had strength, and I walked. And this SS disappeared. I didn't watch where he went, because we had to go very fast, marching. And for the next few days, every 2-3 hours, he's here again. and we have a little chat. Later, by the time we finished, he knew already my uncles, my aunts, my bobbers, where they came from, everything, the businesses, knew everything. So every few hours he comes and gives me this black coffee. One time, we went particular very, very high mountain. It's tremendously cold, the windy cold. So I tell him, my ears are freezing. My ears are freezing. What do you think? He takes off his SS cap, puts it on my head, put it over on my ears. I was wearing the SS cap, and he went bareheaded. If another SS would see that I have an SS cap, I would be shot immediately, that I stole it. But anyways, and he came every few hours, and he gave me this coffee, and this truly, truly invigorated me, gave me new strength. Once he comes, and usually we used to chat like 5-10 minutes before he gives me the canteen. So once I tell him, we're speaking already for a while, and he didn't offer me the black coffee. So, but this time I tell him, no. I thought I'm entitled already. After so many days, he gives me, he said, no, where's the black coffee? So he takes off the canteen from his belt, turns it upside down. He says, even we Germans also don't have it. We don't have any more coffee. So I said to him, if that's the case, just shoot me. I just can't continue. He says, no, don't do it. I promise you, you'll see, you'll survive, and you'll meet your parents. He says, but I can't continue, I can't go. So he says, 6 kilometers from here, we come to the one German city, a town, and I'll go into the first house, and I'll get you coffee. But I said, but until the 6 kilometers, I can't endure. I can't walk. So ladies and gentlemen, my friend was holding me like this. And the SS was holding my right hand, and he's schlepping me, carrying me. So for the next 6 kilometers, I was walking, and this SS helped me to walk. After the 6 kilometers, when we reached this first town, indeed, he went to the house, and he got coffee. Of course, we had to, until about it was like 10-15 minutes, and we had to march on fast. So he had to run after me. He brought me the coffee, but this time it was only black, hot coffee, but not sweet. And then he tells me, now please give me back my cap. I gave him back his cap, because then it was on a lower level, it was so windy. And he gave him back his cap, and I never saw this SS again. When I came home, and I started to write all these things, all these events, all these happenings, in the 7 different death camps. This is only Auschwitz and the death camp, and the death march. I didn't even touch upon the other death camps. So I started to write down all this, my memories. When I came to this episode, I finished off this chapter, of course, in much greater detail than what I'm saying it here. I finished it off, who was this German? I described the Germans who were in Auschwitz and this death march. The real scum of the world, the worst criminals, rapists, robbers, murderers, whom Hitler didn't want to keep in Germany. They shouldn't keep on raping, they couldn't murder. They sent to Auschwitz. They should be our overlords. They should be over us. So said, such a German should have compassion, mercy for a wretched little Jewish child that murdered, killed callously 1.5 million children. So suddenly they should have mercy for a little child, all these murderers. So I said, perhaps, maybe God Almighty sent down an angel in disguise, a German soldier, and he was the one who helped me. And then I continued, finished the chapter. Even suppose it was truly a German soldier, a German, not an angel from heaven, because we know many times angels came from heaven to converse, to help, aid people. So maybe for me it was also, I had this good fortune that God sent an angel, but they said, even in the disguise of a German soldier, but they said, even suppose it's really a German soldier. And knowing whom the German soldiers were, it's not less of a miracle than an angel. Having such a character, killing, for them to kill a Jew, meant absolutely nothing. For me to kill a fly would be much more painful than for them to kill a Jew. And such a German should have this mercy for a little child. It's also a miracle. Now, I just wonder how much more time, Rabbi Gorelick, you give me. Maybe I can continue with the other death camps, or miracles upon miracles, or we can have the question and answer session. What do you say? I'll let the audience decide. Continue? Was? No. But ich kann gehen weiter, yes? Come here. Eventually, we came from the death march, we came to the next lager, Mauthausen. Also a death camp, extermination with gas chambers, crematorium. We came there. Let me just tell you one thing about Mauthausen. So I start speaking about Mauthausen, just like Auschwitz. Truly, we will have to spend here a whole night. The chief commandor in Mauthausen, commandant, had a son, was 50 years old. The son liked very much, what was his hobby, what he liked very much, target shooting. You know, shooting the bullseye. And this was the birthday, when we arrived, the birthday of his son. He wanted to give a present to his son. What could you imagine? What was the present to his son? He took out 15 innocent Jews. They became the target for the child to shoot, target shooting. Can you imagine what a Jew meant in Mauthausen for the Germans? A gift for the bullseye, so he should shoot, and on the spot, those 15 Jews were killed. Let me go on. A notorious camp, Mauthausen. Next camp, we came to Melk. In Melk, if anybody, and every next camp was more worse. Mauthausen was much worse than Auschwitz. Now, Melk was much worse than Mauthausen. If anybody would disobey any of the orders, only one fate, he was hung. If we have to get up 4 o'clock and walk out to work at 5 o'clock, if a person wouldn't wake up 4 o'clock and come to work at 5 o'clock, he would wake up 10 minutes later, ladies and gentlemen, you wouldn't believe it. Every time we came back from work, outside from the camp, hundreds of people were by poles around the camp, with poles. People were hung. Those who disobeyed any order, anything, came late, or did something else which the SS didn't like. They were hung, but not by their neck. This is also the most painful suffocation. They were hung. It takes 5-6 minutes. They were hung by their hands until they die. And every time we came back from work, we saw here 5 people, there 5 people. Sometimes we saw even people not hung by their hands until they die, but we saw several people hung by their legs with their head down. Only torture, even death, also torture to death. How it happened, I just don't know, but suddenly we came one night back from work in this Melk, and suddenly we hear, tonight is Pesach, Passover. Passover, as everybody knows, is the festival of liberation. When the Jewish people were liberated from the bondage, from enslavement in Egypt. Liberation. And the people celebrate Passover. We heard tonight is Passover. Our barrack had over 1,000 people. Also come together. In our barrack was 1,000 inmates, Jews. We heard tonight is Passover. We had to celebrate. Afterwards, at that time I didn't think of it. When I came back, I said, what did we celebrate? Liberty, freedom, but much more enslaved than the Jews in Egypt. Egypt, not 6 million Jews were killed. Not even 1 million Jews were killed. Some children were drowned in the Nile, but not 1.5 million children. They at least had some food. We didn't have any food, but we eat the earthworms. But nobody questions the festival, holiday of liberation. We have to celebrate. Everybody sat up on the cot, and we're celebrating. How do we celebrate? It's called the Agada. And there's a certain ritual, a certain prayers, things which we say. I remembered the Manishtano. I remembered the Hallels. I said with my childish voice loud, and the whole barracks, 1,000 people repeated after me. Somebody else remembered the Shema Yisrael, a different section. He said it, and everybody, and we were singing Animamin, sang songs of liberation from Egypt. And can you imagine 1,000 people sing? SS suddenly comes in. Such a thing is unheard of. Singing in concentration camp, in the death camp, singing. The SS comes, takes off his rifle, says, if you don't go sleep immediately, you'll be all shot. And I told you before, it wasn't just a threat. When we said, he meant it. So, of course, everybody hit the pillows, so to speak. There were no pillows, but just some planks of wood. Everybody lay down. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it didn't take 10 minutes. The SS walked out from our barrack. Everybody jumped up again and continued celebrating, singing again. This time he came again, furious, and holding the gun like this. If you don't go to sleep now, because we have to get up 4 o'clock, if you do this, immediately everybody will be shot. Of course, everybody lay down again. He left, came the third time. Again, everybody sat up, singing, and then we couldn't dance, but singing and praying, celebrating the festival of liberation of freedom. Now let me tell you, will I say among those 1,000 people, 1,200 people, everybody was religious? Certainly not. I'm sure there were also some assimilated Jews, non-religious Jews. But in this moment, when people realized now is Passover, now is Pesach night, the day of liberation, not one person protested. Says, if you fanatic Jews, you want to sing, you want to endanger your life, go outside from the barrack and sing there, pray there, but don't endanger our lives. Not one person raised his voice, saying, don't endanger and don't risk our life. You want to do it yourself. Then I saw, every Jew is a believer. The only question is, sometimes it's subconscious, sometimes it's conscious. Sometimes the subconscious level, as Freud teaches us, from time to time the subconscious comes out to the fore, becomes revealed. In this moment I saw there isn't a Jew who doesn't believe. If he doesn't believe, he believes at subconscious, unconscious level doesn't believe. That wasn't one Jew. 3 times the SS warned us, you are going to be shot, killed. And we saw it when SS says it happens. He does it. I saw how in a different lager, a different death camp, he took the gun, machine gun, and like this, he just kept on shooting a few hundred Jews in 1 second. He was killed, before my own eyes. But anyways, In this moment, not one person protested. Everybody came in the third time. The third time we again jumped up. We continued celebrating. And he came in. He looked bewildered, just looked around. We were sure this is our end. He just looked around. Ladies and gentlemen, he looked around several times. He walked out. Nothing happened to us. If this is also not a miracle, so I said, on and on. He threatened us, and I said, if anybody disobeyed a smallest infraction in the rules what the Germans did, and we didn't keep it, we were hung. And here, a whole barrack, 1,000 people, completely disobeyed this SS. We didn't go to sleep. Now let me jump to the next lager, the final camp, Gunskirchen. At least in Auschwitz, all these places, at least we had barracks. In Auschwitz, some barracks had from bricks, and in Birkenau, which was even worse, there was only from wood, and they were not together. With the raining, the wind came in, the rain came in, the snow came in, but at least we had a roof, walls around us. In Gunskirchen, we were liberated. We arrived in April, beginning of April, and we were liberated 6 weeks later, May the 5th. They didn't have in time, the Germans, to put up barracks anymore, and they were just put up poles, and on top of a canvas, like a roof, and also canvases on the side. But the wind was blowing and the raining and snowing, and they didn't have any more cuts, just on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, we were sitting in mud, in melted snow, in rain, and there were no sanitary facilities people made on the spot. In this barrack were also 1,200 people jammed together. By the time, 6 weeks later, when we were liberated, remained 40 people. All the rest, I was laying again. For some people can think this is exaggeration. Believe me, I didn't say one word exaggeration, only the truth. I was laying on a layer, the whole barrack was only dead corpse, and one on top of the other. I was laying on this height, only on dead people. I said to my friend, please give me something to eat. I can't take it anymore. Give me something to eat. I thought he's going to go and bring me some grass because I had nothing but to eat. Bring me some grass from the forest. Because the camp was in a forest. He didn't come back there. I asked him like 11 o'clock. I says, listen, I can't take it anymore. I'm so hungry. Bring me something. He went and didn't come back till 1 o'clock. But we came back 1 o'clock. I asked him, what took you so time? A little grass, you couldn't bring it faster? He brought me a sugar beet. A sugar beet. So I tell him, where'd you get the sugar beet? Where I bit into him. This juice, the sweet juice, again, revived me. He says, where'd you get the sugar beet? He says, as I walked out to get you something, some grass for food, I saw the Germans took off, the German soldiers in the camp, took off their jackets, took off their hats, threw away their guns, and they're running. So I understood that maybe the liberation is approaching. Maybe they're running away from the American army. So I waited. All the SS escaped. We broke it into the kitchen for the SS. And there I found this sugar beet, and I brought you. He says, now let's go out. Let's leave. Because liberation. The SS ran away. We didn't see the American soldiers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't walk, but he helped me. We walked out from the forest in the middle of the night. We didn't know where we were going. But as it became a little bit dawn, we saw a stream of people from this side, stream of people of this side, and it merged into one group, and went on the highway into the city, Linz. And for a distance, we see a tank. We didn't know whether it's a German tank God forbid, or an American tank. But we said, back, no. We don't go back to the camp. What it will be, we are out for the camp, we are just marching forward. A few thousand Jews. Suddenly, and we were at the head of this group, my friend and I, suddenly we see American tank. You just can't imagine what it meant. American tank. We jumped on the tank, started the American soldiers hugging and kissing, and said, give us to eat something. But you think, what did they give us? Chewing gum. No, they didn't have anything, chewing gum. Anyways, we went into the city, and that's how eventually, and till now, my friend helped me, saved me. We entered into the city. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, so many more supernatural things happened. But we went in the city. My friend became very, very sick. He attracted typhus. He was truly on the verge of dying. Can you imagine? After the liberation, then he helped me survive. And he is in front of me, is about to die. I went to this doctor in this hospital, because there was no children again. When he came to Linz, they saw a little child. Linz was the headquarters of the American Army, British Army, the Russian Army. But they saw me, a little boy. The American general says to me, I want you should eat with us together. When all the generals eat, you should come to our meals. So I also participated with the American general and the Russian general and the British general. And I, little boy, also was also a general. I was also sitting with them and eating with them. So I became very much befriended with them because there was no child. Everybody was killed. So I begged this general, find a good doctor for my friend. He saved my life. So he got eventually a Russian doctor. But anyways, we came home to Czechoslovakia, and even on the way also, our clothes were all full with lice. And you just can imagine how the bite, yes, the sting. So in Linz, we found a storage place. We opened up, we broke into the storage place, found German uniforms. So we threw away all these licey dresses, clothes, and we put on a German jacket, SS jacket, but I couldn't find for myself, but I put on a cap, a German cap. And the other ones had the German university just to get rid of these licey dresses. As we went from Austria, from Linz, to Czechoslovakia, round about all the beaches were destroyed, and we went a group of maybe 6-7 people to Czechoslovakia. So we're on the train. Suddenly, just a little while after the war, the Russian police soldiers come up and see this group with German uniforms. So immediately said, get off, you're Germans. We're taken off for the train, taken up again into the police station, the headquarters of the Russians. They tell us will be shot at best, will be sent to German soldiers, will be sent to Siberia. Can you imagine? Just coming out from one camp, to Siberia. And they took close up then into a room. We were there. We heard that we were going to either be shot because SS or sent to Siberia. I went to the door and started to knock. And I kicked and knocked at the door. This chief Russian policeman opens the door and says, what do you want? So I said, Ja Yevrei. I also spoke Czech and Polish. And Polish and Czech is a cognate language with Russian. So I said, Ja Yevrei means I'm a Jew. He pushed me back into the room. He didn't believe me. And I kept, Ja Yevrei. I kept on again, opened up the second time the room. And he says, Ja Yevrei, and I cry. Pulls me up, okay, you go. So I said to him, no, I will not go unless all are Yevrei. He said, I told him, I have broken Russia, I said, the only reason they have this uniform because they got rid of the lycée. And I said, I will not leave until they also be freed. ladies and gentlemen, they were freed. This my friend was healed, became back to Czechoslovakia, and let me just, and eventually, as the German soldier said to me, he guarantees me that at least think what became fulfilled. You'll survive. You'll meet your sister. You meet your parents. I met my sister survived. My mother survived. My father didn't survive. He was one of those 6 million Jews who perished. So let me just conclude with how I began. Almost, Hashem didn't let me die. He wanted I should live. But Saper Basik, I should be able to retell and be able to recount the wondrous acts of God. Yasi Sarnika, I was tremendously tortured, afflicted, suffered, superhuman sufferings. But a Muslim and Sanoni, Hashem saved me from death. Peacefully Sharet Tzedek, open the gates of righteousness. Over let me come into this means synagogues or for non-Jews churches. Oideka, let me thank God. Let me thank God that I wasn't one of the 1.5 million Jewish children or one of the 6 million Jews. Thank you. Question-answer, yes? Was? Okay, das ist alles verstehe. Das verstehen, das will ich nicht.
Thank you all for coming. We have a little time for some Q&A. If you have a note card that you wrote a question down on, just raise your hand, and students for Holocaust Awareness will come around and grab it, and we'll read them all. Looks like we have one already right here. Just raise your note card up if you have any questions, or raise your hand up if you have some questions. I know we probably didn't have enough cards.
My question is, what should be done today to prevent the Holocaust to happen again, especially in the climate that we see in Europe today?
Yes. Let me tell you, when we came home after the Holocaust, nobody ever imagined such a thing can happen again. We thought the civilization became so much more refined, improved, enlightened, that such a thing can never happen again. Unfortunately, we see, but just like, for example, in Germany. Germany, during the Second World War, from 1938, the most advanced scientifically, culturally, in every sense of the word, in the country in the world. Would ever anybody imagine such intelligent people with such advanced culture should be able to descend to such a mire? It's unthinkable. Especially if civilization, according to the theory of evolution, everything becomes better and better. Doesn't this disprove at least the social evolution? I don't mean the biological evolution, but they call the social evolution teaches also that mankind progresses, becomes better and better. Witness our time, 70 years later. Is this civilization became better or even worse? But everybody imagine what goes on now in Europe. And for that matter, throughout the world. Nobody is safe. People are afraid to go to shopping centers. Would you ever imagine such a thing during the Germans, when they occupied Czechoslovakia or Hungary? We were not afraid to go at night or in the daytime. When they took us, they took us. But before they took us, we were free. We could go shopping. We were not afraid that somebody's going to kidnap us or kill us on the spot or blow up our synagogue. The Germans didn't do it. They did the Kristallnacht once, but at the Catalonia, Czechoslovakia. Nowadays, I was in Belgium, I was in Holland. Some people are afraid to go in Antwerp, in Brussels, in Amsterdam. I was 2 years ago in Turkey, also a lecture series. Usually, I walk on the street. I don't walk in my kippah, but I walk with my head. The Jewish community leaders asked me in Turkey, I should not wear my hat. It's very dangerous. Can you imagine 7 years after the Holocaust? What can we do? Society, mankind doesn't become better. It doesn't mean intellectually we can make progress. Germany was a very intellectual country. They get us scientists, they get us chemists, they get us mathematicians, they get us philosophers, musicians, artists, poets, came from Germany. But let me just tell you a parenthetical note. Did Hitler gain by doing to the German Jews what he did? Or he lost? You know, a bee, when it stings a person, it causes a lot of pain for the person who was stung, but the bee dies. Did Hitler benefit by expelling the Jews or killing the Jews? Let me tell you, from 1905 to 1935, 30 years, Germany won 33 Nobel Prizes. It's a very advanced, very intellectually, technologically advanced country. They won 33, more than any country in the world, from 1905 to 1935. Now, of those 35 Nobel Prizes, what do you think, how many were Jewish Nobel winners? 11. More than 33%, and the Jewish population in 1935 was less than 0.5%. Whom did Hitler lose? All these Nobel Prize winners. Einstein had to run for his life. Can you imagine Einstein, who was not the person of the year? Einstein was the person of the century. And him, Hitler wanted to kill. Freud, the father of modern psychology, had to escape to London to save his life. How many more Nobel Prize winners? So just imagine if all the Jews would have been there, how much technologically and scientifically and philosophically and how much benefit they would have accrued for the Jews. So how much would they benefit? But anyways, just like there's biological evolution, which I'm sure everybody knows, but there's also such a branch, which is called social evolution. That mankind progresses, improves, refines, becomes better. I don't want to discuss biological evolution, whether this is completely true or not, correct. But social evolution is completely bankrupt. We see 70 years that mankind become better or become worse. People are literally in London, people are afraid to go on the subway. In Portugal, all over Europe, and not only Europe, go in any place in the world. Shopping centers, in malls, in the United States, people are afraid to go in. As you know, the latest danger. But came of mankind. So consequently, can there such a thing be? Logically, it can be. And you know, this is their goal, to completely destroy, to bring the new. I don't want to go into the politics. This is their goal, to destroy mankind, humanity. But anyways, it can be. But let me assure you, you should be able to sleep good tonight. There won't be again a Holocaust. Individuals, yes. somebody can be stabbed in Jerusalem. Somebody can be a Jewish library in Belgium, can be also exploded and be killed. But on a massive scale, in comparison to what the Holocaust, the Holocaust 70 years ago, this will never happen. This is biblically has been stated. It won't happen again. Such a tragedy. So you can sleep well, and I can sleep well. Yes.
Okay. Was survivor's guilt something that troubled you for a while? And what about now?
I didn't get again.
Sorry. Was survivor's guilt something that troubled you for a while? Did you ever have survivor's guilt?
Survivor's guilt?
Yes, sir.
Yes, there are some people who were psychologically damaged in the war, the Holocaust, in the camps, and they had some mental problems as a result of not eating, not sleeping, and suffering. So they were disturbed mentally, and they can have such a phobia, so such a why did they survive? Not their parents. But a person knows that every person has a certain purpose, mission, task, or goal in this world. So as I said at the outset of my talk, I don't know why I survived. Why I'm better than the 1.5 million children. But if I had to survive, I know there's a meaning, I may not know, but certainly something I have to contribute something to the world, and you and I and everybody, so I don't have any guilt feelings of survival. But those who have it are a little bit mentally disturbed.
Let's go closer. Let's go closer. Next question. What is your attitude toward deniers of the Holocaust?
I was several years ago in Johannesburg, South Africa, and it's the most well-known radio show. He invited me to speak, to be interviewed on his show in Johannesburg. And he asked me all kinds of questions. And I asked him about the Holocaust and so on and so forth. So somebody called in that the whole thing is a hoax. It's not true, it never happened. So this radio host became so angry that when this person called in, that whatever I say is not true, it's just a hoax, it never happened. There was no gas chambers, no crematorium, no Auschwitz, it's only a fabrication, imagination. So what did I do? I just showed him this. Again, showed him, and just, I didn't tell. So did he start screaming at this person, who I said that the whole thing is not true. Tell me, what would you say if someone would say, the moon doesn't exist? What will you say? Do you see the moon? Can you deny the moon? Can you deny that I was in Auschwitz? Can anyone deny it? But now we're living in such a world, anything goes. The bigger the lie, the more it's accepted. 6 million Jews perished. Those millions did survive. Can you deny that? But now that people can have, just in newspapers, you can have all kinds of stories which never happened. They make up. Just someone should tell you the moon doesn't exist. Can you deny it? Can you deny I'm here? Can you deny I was in Auschwitz? You see my tattoo? Did I tell you stories about my father? So it's just absurd. Mishugas, you know what mishugas means in Italian, in Latin I mean? Mishugas? Stupid.
Another question. Did you have your number removed? Obviously not. If not, then why not?
Ladies and gentlemen, I consider this tattoo a badge of honor. Would anybody... You know, in the world to come, people will have to have a visa to go into paradise. The world to come, when a person goes away from this world. You have to something, a visa why you should enter into paradise, the Garden of Eden. My visa is this.
That's the express lane for you. After the Holocaust, did you suffer from PTSD? If so, how did you recover?
First, tell me what it means.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Let me tell you, thanks God, it wasn't one night I had a nightmare, never. I always reconciled whatever God meets out, it's for the good. I may not understand it. I could have gotten thousands of dollars from Germany if I were to say, I cannot sleep, I have all kinds of these problems, I can't work because I'm nervous, and I have nightmares and such phobias. I could have gotten tens of thousands of dollars. I never accepted one penny because I wouldn't accept money which is not true. I never, one night, I should say, oh, I had such dreams, I was in the gas chamber, I was here and there. Because I always reconciled what happened with Hashem, with God. No problem.
Thank you. Another round of applause for the Honorable Rabbi Mangel.